Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cooking with Lily and Generoso. I'm Lily.
I'm Generoso.
And today we are going to make a dessert because
Yes!
Christmas is only a few days away and there's nothing that says Christmas like sweets. So I'm going to be making ciabatta, which is something that we ate a lot in our house when I was a little kid for Christmas time because it's really, really easy. It's a jea, which is a dessert soup made out of a bunch of different types of potatoes. Traditionally, it has cassava in it. I unfortunately could not find cassava in our neighborhood here. I don't 100% know why. But in lieu of cassava, what we're going to do is actually use two different types of sweet potatoes and taro. So the color of this is actually going to be really, really interesting because we have some special potatoes in store. So let's look at the ingredients. So first we have taro. This is probably about like 3/4 of a pound of taro. We'll probably use almost all of it. We have to take off the skin and the ends on these anyway, so you're going to lose a little bit there. They look really atrocious, but I promise they're delicious. We have about maybe 1.5 pounds of purple sweet potato. These are purple sweet potatoes that come from Japan. You could totally use gold sweet potatoes, like the American version. I shouldn't say gold actually, because it's more of an orange-like color, but you could use that, of course. And then this is a special sweet potato that, you know, in an Asian store they say that it's called the gold sweet potato. The flesh inside is actually white, but it's ultimately a sweet potato. You have 3/4 of a cup of mung beans soaked overnight. You don't necessarily need to soak it overnight, but you should at least let it soak for 4 hours so that the cooking process of the ciabatta is faster. And then I have a cup of tapioca pearls that I've already started to soak in cold water. I just put that in right before we started filming. You don't need to soak it overnight. I find that if you soak it overnight, the tapioca will fall apart and then it becomes kind of this paste and you lose the texture of the tapioca. We have some vanilla extract. We have some salt. We have unsweetened coconut. You could totally shave fresh coconut, of course, but given that that takes a lot of time and a lot of work, I just got unsweetened coconut chips. Make sure they're unsweetened because you want to be able to control the level of sweet that you put into your jea. We have some cinnamon, we have some cane sugar, and then we have 2 cans of coconut milk, and that's what makes every jea special. Jea really is not jea unless you have coconut milk, and that's why Vietnamese desserts are really good, but they're really, really bad for you. So we're going to do quite a bit of prep. We're going to go ahead and chop up these potatoes and chop up the taro and then get it prepared to put in the pan to boil, and we'll see you very, very shortly. So we've peeled all of our potatoes, the taro, the purple sweet potato, and the gold sweet potato as well, and I have put about 14 cups of water to boil because we have a lot of potatoes. And the water is boiling, and first things first, what we're going to do is we're going to add the mung beans to the bottom. I like extra mung bean in this, so that's why there's 3/4 of a cup. You could decrease the amount of mung bean as well, but I think the mung bean adds a nice fragrance.
For folks who've never made them before, Lily, what do mung beans taste like after this mulling process?
Well, you can't eat them after soaking. They need to be steamed or boiled, and then they're kind of just like an earthy, like nutty bean. I would say that it's a little bit sweeter than kind of like a lentil, and the texture is almost like creamy.
But after all night, what I meant to say, I'm sorry, more in a textural way. Like, are they hard?
Yeah, they're still actually hard. They kind of feel like squeezing maybe like a peanut.
Peanut,
Yeah,
okay, well, they're that
They're
firm.
actually still quite hard at this point. Okay. So just keep stirring the bottom just so the mung beans don't stick. And at this point, I am going to put in 1 teaspoon of salt. And then, for now, I'm just going to do 1/4 cup of white sugar. I am going to add more sugar because, you know, I like to start with like a little bit of sugar and then add more as you go because you can always add more, you can't take it away. And I really don't love like super sweet desserts. So we'll start with just 1/4 of a cup of sugar to the mung beans. Give it a stir. And you'll see that this foam is kind of coming up. What you want to do is just kind of take a a slotted spoon or a spoon, and just skim off any of the thick clumps of foam. Alrighty, and so we're actually going to let this sit for probably about 5 minutes. I'm going to get a spoon and kind of just skim off the foam, and after 5 minutes of boiling, we're going to add in the potatoes. So we'll see you in 5 minutes, and our mung beans are a-boiling. I've skimmed off most of the kind of thicker clumps of foam by this point, and in the process, I lost some water, so I went ahead and I added 2 more cups of water back into the pan. At this point in time, we can take our potatoes and just drop them right in. I'm going to do this very slowly because there are a lot of potatoes and I don't want this to spill all over myself or hot water to come
Would you like an assist?
Me. No, I'm good. Again, these potatoes I ended up cutting up into kind of like bite-sized chunks. That's the size that I prefer them. You could definitely make them a little bit bigger if you would like. It's all kind of dependent on what you prefer. So what we'll go ahead and do is I'm going to gradually put all these potatoes in, and then we're going to let this cook for probably about 20 minutes until everything is nice and soft, and then we'll add the finishing touches. Alright, so our potatoes have boiled for 20 minutes. They're actually pretty soft already, and there's actually a really nice mix of colors in the pan. At this point, I have a cup of the dried dried coconut. Coconut that I'm going to go ahead and add. I've actually at this point turned the heat down to kind of a medium-high. It was definitely at a roaring boil. You just want to mix in the coconut to add a little bit more flavor. And it also prepares the actual liquid for the coconut milk that you'll add kind of at the end as a finishing touch, because you don't want the coconut milk to scald and separate. Or curdle. Curdle. Alrighty. And so at this point, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to add our tapioca. This is a cup of tapioca that has soaked. I prefer a lot of tapioca in my chia because otherwise there's something that always feels a little bit missing about it. You could totally put a little bit less. That's definitely an option. The more the merrier. It's also a thickener for your chia as well. So if you're wondering, hey, this is kind of loose at this point, some of the tapioca pearls will actually end up melting down. That's actually completely normal, and then it'll add thickness to the actual chia broth. Sweet broth, I should say. Alright. So give this a nice stir. And then we're going to let this cook probably for another about 10 minutes, basically until you start to see the tapioca. Right now you notice that there's that kind of opaque whiteness in the middle. You want almost all of that opaque whiteness to go away. So you want the balls to be like nice and transparent. So that's probably going to take about 10 minutes. And you want to be very attentive with this part and consistently stir because the tapioca has a tendency to stick to the bottom and burn. And nothing is as disappointing as a lot of burnt tapioca at the bottom of your chia. So we'll see you in about 10 minutes, and we're just going to add the final touches and you'll be ready to eat chia baza. It's been about another 10 minutes and the tapioca has pretty much become translucent. Some of them have a little bit of white metal still, but that's okay. I've turned down the heat now to a happy low, and now we're going to add the coconut milk. Again, this is very decadent. It's a dish for the holidays.
Oh, sure. I'll just pick up my dead leg in a month.
Mix that in. We'll add our second can. Again, there are 2 cans here because I am making like a vat of chia today. Of course, you could cut this recipe in half and then it won't be as deathly, but it'll still be delicious. So you want to basically make sure that all of the coconut milk mixes in with the very pretty liquid that you got from the potatoes and all the tapioca. And it also makes the color a lot prettier because before you add the coconut milk, it's a little bit of a not pleasant purple. It's kind of the same thing like with poi. It comes from the sweet potato and the taro, and that color when you boil it out is kind of a gray, and I think that the coconut milk, besides adding extra flavor and fat, makes the color much nicer. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add some vanilla. I'm probably going to add only about a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then a couple of dashes of cinnamon, just for warmth, not much. And give this a good mix. And at this point in time, you can totally taste this and determine if it is sweet enough for your taste. Remember that the sweet potatoes and the taro all add their own natural sugars to this, and the mung beans do as well. So just, you know, be very cautious with the sugar because, again, when it comes to jam, when it becomes too sweet, you kind of lose all of the fun and the complexity of it. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and taste it and see. So I think that basically where I'm at now, I need probably about another 1/4 cup of sugar.
That's a lot of jam.
Alright. Again, this is a little under a 1/4 cup. And what that sugar will help do as well is kind of bring out the extra sweetness in the coconut, and then also more of the sweetness from the potatoes themselves. So pretty much after this addition of sugar, this is pretty much done. What I'm going to do is going to let this sit for probably about 5 more minutes on a low flame, and that's just to get everything nice and mixed together. That you don't really even need that extra 5 minutes of simmering. You're actually pretty much ready to serve. I personally like the extra simmer just to make sure that the sugar gets through everything, and the vanilla and the cinnamon as well. So we'll see you very, very shortly when we're ready to plate our jababa. Alright, and so we've let the jia simmer for a little bit longer, and this is jababa. Again, this is made with sweet potato and taro and coconut milk and some coconut flakes and tapioca. And again, the traditional version has cassava in it, and it sometimes also has tapioca like strands and tapioca strips. If you can find them, go right ahead and put them in there. The way that you would do that with the tapioca strips is just make sure to soak them. They need quite a bit of soaking, otherwise they take forever to cook, or then they'll just disintegrate into your jam. They're not so great that way. And the same with the cassava. Cassava you'll need to soak overnight if you decide that you want to put some cassava in your jababa. Enjoy and happy holidays!